I know not everybody is a big fan of having GIFs in Power BI reports because, well, who wants to have a moving image that just distracts from the main visuals in the report? However, when used in the right places in the right way, it can actually draw the attention to the right places and take your report to the next level. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you how to set up this example over here, where I have a GIF for the upward and downward arrows to show a trend. And this GIF only loops once and only gets triggered when the user interacts with the report. Now, let's see how it's done. Welcome to How to Power BI. My name is Bas, and if this is the very first time for you visiting this channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all of my videos in which I share everything I know about Power BI. Alright, now let's see what we're going to build. So I want to have GIFs for the arrows that go up and down. Now, why does it need to be a GIF? Because I want to have a little bit of movement to draw attention to these arrows and to show the trend, because that is the most important thing here. So let's interact with the report and see these GIFs in action. I'm going to pick a different product for my slicer, let's say Velo, and you see the arrows moving in. The downward arrows come from the top, the upward arrows from the bottom, and they only loop one single time. Otherwise, it would be way too much. So it's just like a little extra flavor and that brings your design to the next level and actually draws the attention to the right things. But you don't overdo it. Okay, now let's see how we set it up. I'm going to start from scratch, so let's get rid of these cards. And now we can start from the beginning. Step one is to create a new card visual. So it needs to be a new card visual, meaning you need to be on one of the later versions of Power BI. And then we can go here to the top and pick the new card visual. There it is. So let's insert it and let's resize it a little bit like this. And now we can add the measures for which we want to have separate cards. Now, in my case, that's the sales for different countries. Now, the measures I already created. We have, for example, here, sales USA, we have sales Canada, we have sales Mexico, Germany, and France. And you see, for every measure, we have a separate card. Now, the next thing is to make it look a little bit better before we continue and add the images. So I'm going to go here to formatting options. And first I go here to size and style. And I don't want to have any background color, so I turn the background off. I keep the background of the cards themselves white, just a clean look, that's fine. And then we can continue with the shape itself. So I'm gonna go here to shape, and I would like to have rounded rectangles. And actually I only want to have the top left rounded, so I'm gonna customize the style. And then here say that for the top left corner, I just want to have a little bit of rounding. So let's try that out. And I think 10% looks quite okay, so let's leave it at that. And let's maybe also put in a little line on the left-hand side, which we can do by going here to cards and then scroll down. And here we have accent bars. And you see, we have a nice little accent bar on the left-hand side of the card. Now, of course, you can customize that further over here, but for now, it looks good enough. Now then the values, the callout values, I think the size is a little bit too much, so let's make it a little bit smaller, which we can do by going here to callout. And then here for all of the series, we want to have the values a little bit smaller. So I'm going to change it from 45 to maybe 28. And then instead of then, I'm going to go for a different one. Let's choose Segui UI. Now here for label, I want to have a different text. At the moment, it just shows sales followed by the country name. Now, what would be nice if we use that label to show the percentage growth rate from the previous month, which then later on needs to correspond to, well, the arrow up or down. Now to do that, we can enter text, but this would be static, as you can see. Now, also, we have to pay attention because when I type in here test, it changes for all of them. And of course, the growth rate is going to be different for each single card. Okay, so we have to change the series first. So let me make the text box here empty again so that it goes on automatic. Then I change the series to sales USA, and only for the USA, I want to change the text. But now we have to make that dynamic using the FX button. Now, that means we can use conditional formatting with a measure that sets the value of that label. All right, and that measure can show or calculate the percentage difference from previous month. All right, so let's create these measures. I'm gonna go over here to data, and then I'm gonna add a new measure. And let's start with the label for USA. So label USA, which is going to be equal to, now let's start with the value of the growth rate month over month, which we can calculate by dividing the sales USA from this month with the sales USA previous month. So sales USA previous month, and then minus 1. Now, if I use this measure, it will not look great, as you will see in a second. So I'm going to take my card visual, go here to formatting again. Here we have the label section, and we're going to use the FX button to now choose the field value. Now, the field value we can set by the new measure that we just created. Now, there it is, label USA. And, well, we cannot even use it. Why? Because the output of that measure needs to be text. And, well, what we return with this measure is not text, it's a value. All right, so we have to go back, take that measure, and now we have to adjust it so that what gets returned is text. Now, one way to do that is by wrapping it inside of a format function, which we will need anyways, because we want to control how that value gets formatted. And we can do that with custom formatting strings. So we can write over here a pound symbol, comma. That means we're going to have 1000 separator. And then the 0, that's the mandatory placeholder. Hashtags, the pound symbol, is the optional placeholder. Only when it's necessary to show the digit, it will show it. All right. Now, then we don't want to have decimals. So I'm going to leave it as this. Then we want to show it in percentages. So I'm going to add a percentage sign, close the quotation marks, and that's it. Okay, now let's see if we can use the measure right now. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the formatting options again. Here we have the label section. Click here on the FX button, and now we can choose it, hopefully. Let's try it out. Yes, now it works. And now it shows 213%, which is then the growth rate from previous month to this month. Okay, now, of course, well, the user doesn't know what it means, so we have to add a little bit of text. I'm going to go back, take that label USA measure once more, and here we can add some text at the beginning. So, for example, we could say quotation mark, because it's text, and then we want to have, well, the difference. Now, the difference you often show by using a delta icon, all right? So, Windows key, period. Then you can choose the icon that you want. Now, here's that delta icon. I recently used it, otherwise you have to scroll down a little bit. Okay, now, there it is. And it's the percentage difference. So I'm going to add here a percentage icon, and then last month, colon, and then maybe also an extra space. Then we can combine that with what we already wrote before. So let's see how this looks. Now that looks much better. Now let's take that label and put it here at the bottom. So I'm going to go once more here to format. The series that's selected is still Sales USA. And the label I want to have not above the value, but below the value. Okay, so now we have the label below the callout value. But there's a problem. We don't know anymore, or we cannot see, that the sales is the sales for the United States, because that was in the label before, and now it's gone. Now, either we have to add it also to that measure, but it would not look that pretty and wouldn't be very clear, so not a good option. We can also not really add it to the main value, the callout value. So what else can we do? Well, here for the standard options, we don't get that far, because even if I would go here to title, and then here we can turn the title on and add the country names to the titles of the cards. Now, let's add the first one, USA, and now I would like to have the next one, but I cannot select the next series. So that means that this is the overall title. Now, there's no individual title for each card, which is a bit of a problem. So we would have to add extra spaces and then type in the next country, for example, Canada. Now here, these extra spaces get removed unless you turn text wrap off. And you can, of course, push it further to the right until it is above the second card. However, you see, also not great. Now, another option would be to, well, duplicate the card visual and just, well, get rid of all of the extra elements and put it above it. That would be another option. Now, in this case, just pick whatever you like the most. Okay, so I just added all of these countries in the title. Now, of course, we could also have done this with a measure and exactly calculate how many extra spaces I need after each country, but this is good enough now. All right, now then let's go over here to text color, then make it maybe a little bit more grayish so that it doesn't draw too much attention. And now we can just continue by adding also the labels to all of the other countries, just like we just did before for the United States. So let me do this quickly. All right, now the crucial part, which is the GIF image that I want to add to these cards. And I want to have two, one, which is the upward arrow, and a downward pointing arrow. And the thing is that the right one needs to show depending on the percentage growth rate. Okay, now, step one is to, well, find a GIF image or create one, which we can do in PowerPoint. You can create your own GIF image. Now let's do this quickly. I'm going to open PowerPoint. Now to create one is actually really easy. First of all, I would pick the dimensions for the page, more or less in correspondence to the image size that I want to have for my GIF. So I'm going to go here to the Design tab. Then here on the right hand side, we have Slide Size, then Custom. And over here, let's just go for a square. And here you can just put in the pixels. So 1080 px. All right. And then for the height, we can do the same. So 1080. And you see it automatically transforms the pixels to centimeters or inches. Okay, and click OK. Then once you have this, you can go here to the top, Insert, and then we can go for a shape. Now here, let's go for an arrow. Now the arrows are here. Now let's start with the downward pointing arrow and just draw it over here. Now make it as big as you want it to be. Now I'm going to make it a little bit smaller than the page itself. And then put it more or less in the middle. And we can also play around with these yellow handles to make it less white. And here we have another one. All right. And you make it exactly like you want it to be. Okay. Now, once you have done that, then also, of course, choose a nice color. In this case, I would like to have red, or maybe you want to, well, have a gradient fill, right? So to do that, we can go here also to shape fill. And then here we can select that we want to have a gradient, for example, like this, and no outline. Okay, now, if you want to set it up with a little bit more detail, then, of course, you can also go to the image, right-click, and then say here, Format Shape, Fill, and then here we can set up the gradient a little bit more exact. So here we can say we want to have a gradient fill, how the gradient should be, what type of gradient, and also here what I usually do with the ending point, I would make totally transparent, just like this. The middle one, maybe 70%, all right? And then play around with the start and ending points until you exactly have it like you want it to be. Okay, now, at the moment, it's just a downward pointing arrow. Now we have to introduce movement, and that we can do with animations. So let's go to animations, open the animation pane. Then we have to select the arrow itself, and now we can add animations that you see here at the top, or you could actually also create your own one. So you can also go here for lines and draw the line on which the animation should go. So here we have always a start and ending point. Now that starting point I actually want to have all the way at the top so that the arrow starts basically above the page. Now it needs to go even higher, so let me drag it even further up. Just like this, and make sure it's more or less straight. All right, and then here for the ending point, well, now it ends a little bit too far, so I'm going to drag it up, and I want it to stop over there. Now just make sure that the line is straight. And once you have everything set up, then you can test the animation by clicking here on Play From. All right, and there we have our arrow. Nice. Now, the same thing we have to do for the upward arrow. So let me do that quickly. And now we have our two images with animation set up. We have the upward arrow and downward arrow. Now, the next thing that we want to do is go here to File and export them as GIFs. So, File, then you go here to Export. And then here we have the option to create an animated GIF. Here we can say what the quality should be. Now, these GIFs are going to be very small in the Power BI report. However, usually I still start with extra large and then compress it later on, just so that I have more options and can decide at a later stage what the quality should be. Okay, so I'm going to go for now for extra large. Then we have to say which slides. So I only want to have the first one, so slides 1, 2, 1, and create the GIF. Just pick where you want to save it and save it. And this we just repeat for the upward arrow as well. So once more, File, Export, and then create an animated GIF. And now we want to have the second slide. Create GIF. and save it. Okay, and now we have already a GIF, but the problem is that it goes on an endless loop. And here in PowerPoint, I believe there's no option to say just loop once and then stop. So we need a different tool. Now, one tool that allows you to do that, well, we just need a GIF editor, and one that is available for everybody is the following one over here. And this one is called sgif. So if you go to sgif.com/loop-count, then you can choose over here your GIF, now the one that we just created. Now let's start with arrow down and then upload it. Now then you should be able to see the GIF in action, and you see it just keeps on looping, looping, looping. However, now we can set that loop count to 1 and change it. And you see, there we have it, just looping one time. And we can make further changes here. You can also crop it, resize it, rotate it, optimize it. Now, this is also something that I recommend you to do because you don't need a super perfect, high quality GIF image. We can just compress it. So we can say, okay, compress it a little bit. For example, over here, 35 would be just a bit, which is okay for now. I click here on Optimize GIF, and that gives us the GIF that we can use in Power BI. Now, let's try this. So I'm gonna go back to our report, and then over here, select the visualization, go to formatting options, and then we can go here to cards, and if we scroll down, there we have the option to add an image. Now, that image, you can add in two ways, either image or image URL. Now, image just means we can pick it from a location on a computer. Image URL means that we can host the picture somewhere and then use that URL that links to the picture. Now let's first go here for image, browse, and then choose the image that we just created, the one where it only loops one time. And there they are, we have our arrows for all of the cards. Now it looks a little bit weird also because of the image fit. Now let's change that to fit. All right, already looks a little bit better. However, they are all going down, which is, of course, not true for all of them. Well, for the second one, by coincidence it is, but for the first one, it actually should go up. Now, that is, well, because we are not checking the growth rate. We just need to have a measure that first checks the growth rate and then returns, well, either the upward arrow or the downward arrow. So we need to have a measure. And that also means that we have to go for that second option with the image URL, because only that we can refer to in a measure. And now we just need a place to host our images. Now, where can you do this for free? Well, one option would be postimages.org. So I'm gonna go to my browser. I already opened it up, postimages.org. And here we can just say which images we want to host here. So I'm going for my arrow down. All right, upload it. And that's it. Here we have a direct link to that image. Now, we can just copy that direct link, the second one, go back to Power BI, and I would create a new measure. So let's call this one image and then arrow down, which is going to be equal to, and here we have the URL. Okay, and the same thing we can then do for the upward arrow. Okay, so we created our GIFs in PowerPoint, then used a different GIF editor tool to make sure it only loops one time, and maybe to also compress it a bit. And then we found a place to host these GIFs. Now, that gave us a link, and that link we now put in two separate measures, one called image arrow down and one called image arrow up. All right, good. So now that we have that, now the next step is to create a measure to show the right arrow based on the month-over-month growth. So I'm going to add another measure. Now let's call this one GIF and then USA. And we want to check if, now let's put this on the next line. I want to check if the, well, USA sales is bigger than the sales for last month. Okay. Then I would like to return, well, an arrow up and otherwise the arrow down. So arrow up. This is true, and otherwise arrow down. Okay, and then we can close that if function, and now let's try it out. Let's go here to formatting for the card visual, then go to cards, and then look for the image section. Now here we have now chosen an image for my laptop, the one that we created before, but that is not a good option. We have to go for image URL, because then we can use a measure to dynamically switch between an upward and downward arrow. Okay, so image URL, and then here, do not put in a link to, well, the upward or downward arrow. No, we want to use that measure that figures out which one should show. So field value, measures, and then we have the measure that we just wrote in this folder, GIF USA. There it is. Click OK. Now we have here for the first one an upward arrow showing because we have, well, a positive value there for the month-over-month growth rate. Okay, perfect. And now we just have to do it for all of the other ones as well. Okay, so that is done. Now let's try it out. I'm going to pick over here at the top a different product, for example, Velo. And now the arrows come in. Just double check. So over here, that looks okay. And if we go for Montana, then you see super nice effect. The arrows just fly in. However, not completely correct because over here you see we have minus 100%. What is that? And why does it show an upward arrow? Well, there's a problem if there is no, well, either no current value for the month or no value for the previous month. Then we will have to watch out because then we get, well, a wrong result. And upward arrow shows minus 100%. Something is off. And the same if I pick here Cartera, then we can say, okay, what should show when there's blank? I just put in two hyphens for now. And you see we have also here the same problem. Now, how to solve that? Well, we just have to adjust the measures a little bit more. Let's go back, for example, to the USA one. And here I probably would do two checks. So first of all, let's use variables. And here we can say, okay, the first thing that we need to check is if the sales USA is not empty and sales USA previous month is not empty. So not is blank. And then here we have the first one and not is blank. And then the other one as well. So let me copy that over there. So that's the first one. And then for the second one, we can check if it's positive. So I just call it positive. And then here we have is the USA sales this month bigger than the USA sales from previous month. Okay. And then the last one, that is then for the icon itself. And then here we can, let's maybe use a switch function. So I'm going to change this to switch. Then we have true. And then we can check if it's positive and not empty. So not empty. Then I would like to have the upward arrow. So this one over here. And then the second thing that I want to check for is whether it's, well, not positive. So we can just put not in front of it. And also here, it should not be empty. Either one of them, so the current sales and previous sales should not be empty. Then I would like to have the arrow down. Okay. And if none of these conditions are true, so when it's 0, then I would like to have, well, quotation mark, space, quotation mark, when there's no growth at all, no difference. Okay. And when we use variables, then we need to say return and then the icon. Okay. Now let's just change the formatting. Let's indent this just like this. All right. And the same problem we also have with the label. So I'm going to copy this part, then go here to label US. And then here, I just want to put in this if condition so that we have both these components. And if that is the case, only then return the label. Okay. Okay, so now we do this for all of the other countries as well. And then after adjusting the measures, you will see for the US, there we have no arrow going up, no label, because, well, there's current sales for the current month, but not for the previous month. So therefore, we cannot correctly show a label or the arrow. Now, for Mexico, there we don't have any current month sales value. So therefore, well, nothing shows, okay? Now, and that's it. Now let's try it out. Let's click here also on the other products to see if it's working. The arrows nicely fly in when we interact with the slices. And also here with the timeline, when we change the time frame, see, perfect. Now, in this way, we have that nice little extra effect that can really uplift the design of the report and, well, actually draws the attention of the user also to the right places, because I do want the attention of the user to go to the trends to see if it's positive or negative growth. Okay, now let me know your thoughts. What do you think? And if you have any questions, just put it in the comment section below. And there's also design training coming up. So if you want to build reports together with me and learn all of my secrets, make sure to check it out so that you learn how to build reports and make all of your colleagues happy. And thank you for watching and see you in the next video.